Welcome to the U.S. latest news channel. Watch the video to the end to find out the current and breaking news about the Russian war in Ukraine. The Ministry of Defense of Ukraine announced today that the soldiers of the Ukrainian Army will go to the countries of the European Union for training after agreements with the European Union countries. Officials of the European Union, in a statement, the authorities of the member states of the European Union located between 15,000 troops of Ukraine, Germany, France, and the Netherlands in countries such as the training and after the training, the necessary equipment will be sent back to Ukraine during the soldiers said. Later in the statement, European Union officials said that 3,000 Ukrainian soldiers will undergo tactical combat training in particular. He explained that the trainings will be given by experienced commanders who have served in the armies of the European Union countries for many years. The Ukrainian General Staff announced today that the Ukrainian Army has made progress in the Kherson region and that some of the settlements under the occupation of the Russian Army have been liberated from the occupation and passed under the sovereignty of the Ukrainian Army and Ukraine. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky announced last night that the Ukrainian Army had taken some settlements located around the occupied Kherson region from the occupying Russian Army. Among the settlements decimated by the invading Russian Army are Arkhangelsk and Mykolaiv. The Russian Defense Ministry also claimed that the Ukrainian Army committed war crimes and took the recaptured areas with the help of equipment that is prohibited for use. After a meeting between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and the Chief of Staff of the General Staff, he claimed that these claims of Russia are lies and that Russia is torturing the people of the region in the occupied territories. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has confirmed that the Ukrainian Army has taken some settlements around the Donetsk region from the occupying Russian Army. The people living in the settlements retaken by the Ukrainian Army claimed that the Russian Army forcibly took the male members of the people living in the occupied areas to Russia to join the Russian Army and provided training in mobilization camps. The Intelligence Service of Ukraine said in the report published today claims who started working after Kherson, Donetsk, and Luhansk regions to the Russian Army in the Russian Army under the occupation of the people of the region with the instructions of Russian President Vladimir Putin in Russia on buses for the male ones forced mobilization announced that they were being taken to the camps. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky continued his statement by asking the Ukrainian people living in the regions occupied by the Russian Army to raise an uprising and resist the Russian Army. The General Staff of Ukraine recently announced that during the day, many regions in the south of Ukraine that were under the occupation of the Russian Army were recaptured by the Ukrainian Army. The Ukrainian intelligence agency announced on September 30th that Oleksiy Katerintsev, the deputy head of the Kherson region under the occupation of the Russian Army, had been neutralized. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry announced in a last-minute statement that the village of Torsky, located in the east of the Donetsk region, was taken from the hands of the occupying Russian Army. Serhiy Cherevity, who has great rights in the liberation of the village of Torsky, confirmed that the village of Torsky was taken from the hands of the occupying Russian Army in a video he posted on his social media account. The Ukrainian Army was taken over by the invading Russian Army in the settlement area of the Luhansk region that is located between the city of Lyman, and so disconnected with the Ukrainian Army now these two regions of the Russian Army, so getting any help from the Luhansk region of the Russian Army is out of the question. In another statement, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announced that the city of Lyman, which is under the rule of the occupying Russian Army, has completely passed under the control of the Ukrainian Army. After the complete capture of the city of Lyman by the Ukrainian Army, the soldiers of the Russian Army in the villages near the city of Lyman came to the city of Lyman and surrendered to the Ukrainian Army. Among the surrendered Russian soldiers are Russian soldiers, whom Russian President Vladimir Putin recently decommissioned in part of the mobilization. The Russian Defense Ministry, on the other hand, claimed that this information announced by Ukraine was a lie, and that Russian citizens who were conscripted as part of the partial mobilization were only obliged to protect the borders. The ammunition detonation took place after a brief time. The ammunition detonation caused a strong explosion that completely destroyed the combat vehicle. The armed forces of Ukraine seized armored vehicles as well as weapons of the invaders during the counterattack in Kherson region. Russian invaders were unable to capture several BMD-2 aircraft-borne infantry fighting vehicles. Social media users shared a video of captured Russian equipment. The BMD-2 was not enough. Ukrainian soldiers also received the BTR-D Airborne Armored Personnel Vehicle. This vehicle is the primary armored personnel carrier for airborne and mobile troops of the Russian Federation. The vehicle is made from BMD-1 aggregates and BMD-1 assemblies, but it does not include a turret equipped with weapons. The main weapon of BTR-D is two 7.62mm PKT machine gun. BTR-D is distinguished from BMD-1 in that it has a hull almost 483mm longer than BMD-1. 6 rollers were added to each side of the track support surface. BTR-D's permanent crew consists of a driver, 2 machine gunners, and a pilot. The landing compartment can hold 10 soldiers. It was reported precisely and clearly by the Attorney General's office in private. During the Russian invasion of Ukraine, there was a decimated battle between the Russian and Ukrainian armed forces for the control of the town of Hostomel. As part of the Kiev offensive, Russian forces wanted to take control of Hostomel, Bucha, and Irpin into their own hands in order to encircle the Ukrainian capital Kiev from the west. Ukrainian and Russian forces began to clash with each other in and around Hostomel. Thus, videos posted on social media show that a column of Russian tanks on the outskirts of the town is burning, and Ukraine. It was shown firing rockets at Russian positions over a residential area. The Ukraine-Russia crisis, which was shown as one of the most frightening events of recent years, was now causing many countries to provide aid on a Ukrainian basis. This situation had led Western countries to support Ukraine and send military and financial aid. At this point, the United States, which has stated that it has supported Ukraine since the first day, is now rolling up its sleeves to prepare the highest military aid packages in history. In addition to humanitarian aid packages, the U.S. will now send military aid to Ukraine, stating that they are ready to support Ukrainian troops by preparing a new weapons package. At this point, it was stated that new aid packages will be transferred from many countries, such as the United States. While it was announced that the new aid package was approved by the United States, it was observed that many U.S. Senate members also said yes to the decision. While this situation aroused wide repercussions in America, it also gained him an important place in the global press. Millions of people are now waiting anxiously for when U.S. resources will be transferred to Ukraine. Russian efforts to gain an advantage in the war by illegally transporting information from Ukraine continue to be repelled by Ukrainian intelligence agencies. It was known that the Ukrainian Army, which did not share information with any media during this process and conducted operations confidentially, soldiers should be more careful, and a direct arrest warrant was issued for a person identified in any suspicious behavior. The limited information that is shared with the media, according to a statement of the agent that is captured in the security service, Ukraine's armed forces bases the Department of Defense and law enforcement facilities, personnel and military equipment and technical capacities of an agent that collects information on detailed observation reports said. The fact that the agents who appeared after the prisoner swaps between Ukraine and Russia were captured also caused the ropes between them to be stretched. So far, the SSU has informed the investigators about the suspicion of a crime for this agent, whom the enemy has identified as an accomplice, according to the information contained in the second part of Art. 111 of the Criminal Code of Ukraine. It is expected that the criminal will be referred to the court after detention under the heading treason committed under martial law, which points to the section. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights claims that Israel attacked some places in the Zainab region around Damascus and destroyed a workshop using Iranian technology. Unmanned aerial vehicles were also produced in this workshop. The last remaining arsenal was bombed. Russian authorities were aiming to buy products made in Iran here. Russia's drone production fell behind other countries in the world. Ukraine relies on Turkey for unmanned aerial vehicles. Turkey's drone technology means superior combat capabilities and lower cost than land. According to reports from Ukraine, it is stated that Russia spends about $400 million a day on the conflict with Ukraine. Israel's embargo against Russia resulted in significant destruction. Russia will need drones for areas it has recently gained the upper hand. Faced with this threat in some areas where Ukraine has withdrawn, will Russia go on the offensive? Will Israel be able to withstand Russian pressure? At least one Chechen battalion is preparing for a second attack on Moscow, according to a spokesperson for the volunteer fighter group based in Ukraine. A spokesperson for Vladimir Putin's Kiev Sheikh Mansour battalion said in a video message posted on social media last week that Russia may soon be fighting over its own country. Ukraine's fault-line media platform continued, saying once again that a war strategy for Chechen independence was being developed. The Chechen Republic is currently divided into 3 fronts. Unwavering support in Ukraine Sheikh Monster Battalion said that they have successfully divided Chechnya into 3 regions and started working with civilians, emphasizing that it will reveal the movements of the enemy troops, revealing the number of weapons and the number of weapons. Kofla emphasized that even if there is no second fight for the throne in Chechnya, it is not impossible. He stated that Putin is putting pressure on the churches and volunteer unions, that possible cooperation with Kiev on this issue is unknown, and that he will convince Putin and the Russians that they need it. They said they would do their best to stop paying attention to Ukraine, which loves Ukrainians, to end the war there. Who do you think will be the winner of the Russian-Ukrainian war? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video.